here's a nice box. Just arrived. This is something for my old Pioneer tuner, the SX750. I noticed that the capacitors had a bit of a domed top on the power capacitors, so I ordered this kit from a guy on eBay. Also, because look at it, isn't that cool? Kemet, that's the ancient Egyptian word for Egypt. How could I not have a stereo with Kemet capacitors? So anyhow, these are supposed to be exact fit for that Pioneer. Same kind of rating, power handling capacity, but with 45 fewer years on them. So those are supposed to go in. It looks pretty straightforward. We'll get into that in a minute. We've got to open up the tuner and see what's involved. If you watched the earlier video, I replaced the LEDs in the display so they all work. So the first thing to do is make sure that the power is off, which it is. I have it on power strip, so we'll do that. And then we've got to undo all 4 of these side screws. So we'll start doing that. Alright. The reason I'm doing this is because the old capacitors are almost 50 years old. And I love this tuner, and I don't really want to go buy a whole new tuner. I mean, there are advantages to a new tuner, of course, because most things these days have all the digital, what's this, the interface with the fanciest DVD player, and all the coaxial outputs, and infrared audio. Yeah, well, I'm kind of old school. I mean, I'm rocking the old 2013 iPod here, and it sounds pretty good to my old 70s tuner. So the other 2 are on this side. Okay, get all 4 of those off, and you just lift up the back part. Free it up there. It's kind of slides into the front part like that, and just lift it up and out. These are the guys we're replacing right here. As you can see, well, it's kind of hard to see, but they're starting to puff up at the top, which is a sign that they're off-gassing and decaying. So it looks like there's little retainer rings that use a screwdriver to remove. We'll do that. Undo these screws. You also want to make certain you've got the same orientation, because sometimes they have negatives and positives. So notice where the label is on the capacitor, and make sure that the new one goes in the same kind of way. So you just undo this screw. There's probably one near the board. Hard to get to. Hope we don't have to take off a bunch of nonsense. It looks like there's 10 screws on the bottom here. I've already got quite a few of them out. You get this cover plate off. And capacitors hold electricity, so you never touch the terminals that have been in the machine, because, whoopsie, they can shock you, and that's not a good time. We've taken the 10 screws off the bottom cover. Now we can slide that out. Hopefully see what we're doing. Be a good opportunity to clean this plate. Here we are. There are the capacitors, and they are soldered. So we will have to desolder them and solder the new ones in. So this is not an easy little plug and play deal. This is something that's going to take a soldering iron. And so physically, these are the same size capacitors as the ones in there. Also same rating, maybe a little better even. But looks like these had twin terminals on them, if you see them there in the center there. So we're going to have to combine all these wires together when mounting them to the new things, because this only has a single terminal on each. So I think what we'll do is desolder these red ones and then strip them all and combine them and solder them onto the positive lead of this one. And then the black one looks pretty straightforward, just solders on, looks like. Okay, so this is a big pain in the butt, but it's doable and really not that intimidating. Okay, I got my soldering iron, got my solder. It's a good idea to look in here while you're got the bottom off. Look at this cobweb. That doesn't need to be in there. That ain't gonna do any good. And here, look at this, a little mummified stink bug. That's fun. He must have crawled in there sometime in the 70s or 80s. Wonder how long he's been in there. Goodbye, Mr. Stink Bug. We don't need you in my tuner. Yeah, there's some nonsense. Compressed air probably work good. But you can blow on stuff too. Just get all the junk out. And then wipe all this down. Probably wipe this down with some rubbing alcohol. Wash that bottom plate. But for now, where'd they go? Here they are. These are the capacitors we're replacing, the bottom of them. So we need to desolder the red leads and the black leads. Whenever you work on this stuff, be very careful. Don't touch anything. Don't touch any of these things, because these capacitors will hold charges for a long time and they will shock you. So do your best not to touch any metal posts, because you don't know what's still energized or not. There's a way of grounding it if you're really into electronics and being safe, but most of you probably aren't going to do that, so just don't touch anything. Okay, so the desoldering didn't go so well. This is lots of fun. So we're just going to take these parallel cutters and then go to the terminal and just cut the wires. Alright, because basically they all have to go to that terminal. So there. We have 3 brown wires that have to go to one side, and we have a black wire that has to go to the other side. So we'll see if we can remove it. Oh, look at that. There's our capacitor. This says CEW 50 volt 15,000 microfarad negative black up to 85 degree Celsius. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little hole here, and the electrolytic compound was starting to come out, so this had to be done. It was going to fail soon. Now we've got to take this bracket off. So we just take that off with the screwdriver. Okay, these wires are all stripped. I did hit that with the soldering iron, but it doesn't look like it went all the way through, so I think we're okay. So you just want to twist them together. Let's take a pair of pliers and twist these guys up nice and tight, so that when you solder them onto the new capacitor, you're good to go. That looks good. And then I may put a little piece of heat shrink on this, since one of those wires got a little melted. So we'll cut off a piece, slide it over the 3 of them, right to the edge of where the wires are exposed. The black one we could strip too. Get some of this nastiness off. There we go, nice black lead ready. So it looks like the black lead comes from the power supply. So I'm thinking that must be the positive, right? The black is the positive, and then the brown goes to everything else. So the power supply feeds the capacitor, it fills up with energy, then it goes to everything else. See, this is the original here, and it has a black dot, and the black dot has the 2 brown leads, and then the black wire went to this other lead here. So I'm pretty sure that the black lead is the positive. The new one has a little positive. So we're going to hook our black lead to the positive, and then the brown leads to the negative, right? So this is how the clamp was. We know this because of the indentation here where the gap dug into it. You see, right there. The gap dug into it on the band. So, we know that the brown leads are here and the black lead is here. So we want the orientation to be the same. We want to basically just transfer it like that. Can you see? So we'll just slide this, whoop, right in there like that. Okay, that should be pretty good. It's a little looser, but I think the diameter is maybe smaller. No, it's very similar. Anyway, this is good, and so we got to go up and in the bottom now. So there's the new capacitor by the old capacitor. You see? And I'll go ahead and locate it with the screws. Okay, I've got the screw on the top and bottom. So the capacitor is now installed. You can see it next to the old 45-year-old one. They're the same, but modern technology, they're even more compact and more powerful. Isn't that the way? Here's our new capacitor right here. And here's our old leads. So we're going to solder this wire here, and we're going to solder this wire here. And it looks like there's a little hole at the base of each terminal. So what I'm going to do is make a little hook with my wire, and I'm going to poke it in that hole so that kind of locates it. Okay, so we've got our black lead on. But I'm going to pull it off for a second because I'm not liking here. I hit it with the iron. Got a little melty melt going on. I just, you know, heat shrink is cheap. Shorts are not. So we're going to put a little piece of heat shrink on this wire just to make sure it's good and insulated. Crud. Undo my little hook. Here we go. Okay. So we'll slide this down over. Like that. Heat shrink it. There we go. Good, good, good. Alright. So, back to the way we had it. It's going to go down to the thing. Go in the little hole. Like that. And then we'll just bend it on the other side so that it's on there securely, just like that. That looks good. So that's ready for solder. And the other one will do the same. We'll make a little hook. We'll put our, put it around. Okay. Go down to that little hole in the terminal. Okay, good, like that. Get it on there good. Move this a little bit. Okay, those are good. Those could be. So when you solder, it's good to have a sponge, or I use sometimes in a pinch just a wet paper towel. I just get some water on it because the tips tend to get a little grody. I don't know if you can see the tip. Yeah. Anyway, they get this black gunk on them, so you just lightly touch the tip to the paper towel or your sponge, and then you have a nice shiny tip that's ready to solder. Now we're in really tight. Okay, so we take our solder. We can tin our tip. I want to cover the areas I'm not working on so I don't get any splatter. And then we want to solder. I'm going to solder the brown leads. You want to work pretty quickly so you don't heat up the capacitor too much. Just heat up the metal, heat up the solder, flow it on both sides so that you're good. Nice shiny ball of solder, good. That's looking pretty good. However, I would like to get just a little bit on the other side here. I'm going to try and get in here too, so that it's soldered on both sides, really welded on. Last thing you want is a jiggly power supply. That looks good. We are golden. So theoretically, it should work now. Now that we got this rotten, nasty old one out, we probably could plug it in and it would work. But we're not done playing around, so let's get these other leads for the one that we haven't removed yet. It's 3 reds this time on the opposite side. It looks like the 3 reds go to the positive terminal this time. And then there's 1 black that go to the negative. Okay, there's 1 retaining screw here left. Just take it out. There we go. Bring it out gently. Got it. There it is. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. Take a look and see. You see how the terminals are? They're exactly parallel or in line. They're in series with the mounting tabs. So if you put the new one in the same way, clocked in the same orientation, you'll be fine. Okay, I've transferred the bracket to the new Kemet capacitor. Take it off the other one. Same clocking, same orientation, and now we can put it in to the stereo unit. I'm just putting the bracket down. I got the capacitor oriented the same way with the negative and positive the same as the other way. Okay, that's nice and snug. Okay, screw number 2 on the clamp going in. Had to magnetize my screwdriver. Okay, so black goes to negative. And we bend up our little hook that we made out of the wire. Bend it around the tab so that the wire is on there firmly. We have to clean our tip again because we walked away. So you just wipe off all the smudge off of your tip. Now flow a little solder onto our terminals. Well, a terminal, the first terminal. I don't have the other one rigged yet. Oh, I hope this does the trick. That'd be great. It might even have just all around better performance because that one capacitor was leaking. Okay, that looks good. That's the red here on the positive terminal to our new capacitor. The capacitors are installed. They are clamped in. That looks good. Let's flow a little on the back side just for safety's sake. I'd say that's good. However, in the process of jiggling things around, which is the way with old wires, we did break a lead. See this red wire? But there's a post here with coiled wire and no wire coming off of it, so I'm guessing that it goes there to number 7. I know that's kind of a shot in the dark, but if it's not that, then where would it be? And it looks like it's the perfect size. So we'll just have to strip this down and solder it onto that post. Sorry about that, guys. The battery on my camera died. Anyway, I put it to shoreline, so now we're plugged into the wall. There'll be plenty of power to run the camera. So I'd like to clean stuff with alcohol because it just doesn't leave much residue and works really good at degreasing and getting gunk. So I'm just going to wipe some of this funk off before we put it back together. I figured this is some runoff from when I used tuner cleaner about 10 years ago. Tuner cleaner is an aerosol that you can spray in the little knobs so that if you're hearing a scratchy sound or something, you just rinse them out, but you've got to be able to collect what you're rinsing. Otherwise, you'll make a big puddly mess, which I think is what happened here. I think it ran down into the bottom trough of the stereo. It didn't hurt anything because, like alcohol, it evaporates. It doesn't stay a puddle forever. But anyway, now's a good opportunity to clean it all. Clean off this big heat sink. Clean off any funky junk. The power supply. Yeah, that looks good. And then I'm going to take the pan that's really dirty, this thing, and I'm going to wash it. Okay guys, so this is neat. I'm so glad I did this. Put the capacitors in. So as I'm cleaning the pan, I noticed this stain here, right? And some crusty gunk here. Well, let's see where that is. We flip it over. Look at that. It's right underneath the capacitor that started to fail. So basically, this one has been oozing the electrolytic compound for maybe a decade or two. Who knows? Slowly losing its capacity to work as a capacitor. It's actually physically lighter than the other one because some of that stuff drained out into this pan, into this little reservoir. They even put a little reservoir to catch it, as if they know that someday that's going to happen. That's pretty crazy. So anyway, I'm pretty darn sure we did this right. I mean, black to black, positive, negative, yeah, that's the same. Yes, that's correct. This is in right. We did it right. We got this clean. We re-soldered some of those other ones that looked a little funky. We fixed that one red wire that got jostled around and broken. Now we're ready to put it back together. I'll slide this guy in. Put that there. Alright. Okay. And we'll put all our screws on. Oh, this will be great. I hope it works even better. I always loved the stereo. My dad bought it back in '76. And it was so damn loud. Oh my God. He had these huge, I think they were 12-inch full range speakers that were PA speakers from Los Angeles High School. When they remodeled or something, they gave away a bunch of stuff. And he took those and he built these big cabinets, and they were hooked up to this stereo. And that thing would crank. Man, in high school I would make so much noise. Playing the Power Station or Van Halen, you know, back in the day, in the 80s. Yes, I am that old. So, all these screws have to go in. This is great. Okay, we've got it plugged in. We're gonna turn it on. And so either it's gonna explode and not work, or it's gonna be fine. Let's find out, shall we? Ooh, that's a good sign. Came right on too. It didn't take a while. It used to take a long time. Look at that. And that is how you replace the main power capacitors on a Pioneer SX750 tuner. There they are. Now my stereo is powered by Kemet. Woo! Kemet, baby. I think Father Hauser over there would be proud. What do you think, Father Hauser? Did we do a good job? Did we represent Kemet? Yeah. Kemet, baby.